Hello and welcome to the Business Aviation Collective podcast, sponsored by LD Aviation. I'm your host, Lindsay Dyer, and today we get a chance to talk about a passion project of mine. And here with me today is Danielle Calnin. Hello, Danielle.
Hey, Lindsay. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you here. Danielle has been really intimately involved in this project that I have wanted to do for many years. And I, long time ago, saw the need for additional training for schedulers and dispatchers in the market. So we have, of course, your scheduling or your dispatch license, which is one thing. But then there's a million additional details that we need to learn that a new person needed to learn. So I tried to do this project myself a couple times over the last 10 years, and I never really got a chance. I just wasn't able to get it off the ground. So I met Danielle a couple of years ago, and it was just like a really good partnership, and realized that Danielle could really move that project forward for me. So Danielle joined our team again, like I said, a couple of years ago, and her job was to take that passion project of mine and make it into a reality, which she has. Anyway, Danielle, why don't you start and tell us some background about yourself?
Sure, thanks. Initially, some of my experience in aviation was with NetJets. I was a NetJets scheduler in their flight department and customer service rep, and I also was a flight attendant with them. So I really understood the need for training and how technologies now can help improve our training. Because back when I was sitting at the scheduling desk, it was literally plug into a phone and you just sat and listened. And that's how you figured out the rhythm of the day of scheduling and what to do when and who to call and what do you even say. So I really wanted to harness that experience in these classes and put something down in video that said, here's how you do it. Here's how you sit down at the scheduler desk and the things you have to look at and the things that you're expected to do to help make everything go really smooth. So I tapped into that experience. I also have a dispatch license, like you mentioned. So I really kind of brought all this together in those classes.
I think you make a really good point. So much of our training in the scheduler dispatcher role is on the job training, which of course is really hard to do when you're running a busy flight department, or perhaps maybe you didn't have anybody that was doing the role before. How do you even train this person to take over this role or to jump into this role? Yeah, I think
where do you even go?
Yeah.
And I think as schedulers too, and you can speak to this and you've heard all of my random scheduler stories, but everybody has that story of here's when something went really wrong in the day and how I fixed it. And nobody had ever seen this happen. And we all have those stories, and being able to share some of those stories on here's how I fixed a problem is super valuable as well. Even if you may never see that exact situation again, maybe different entities exist of places you can start to go to, and you start to think of, maybe I go down this path. And as you start to call people and figure out what to do for these one-off scenarios, you can really kind of start to put it together.
Yeah, I totally agree. Good point. And I think that the industry has kind of a place for us to go and trade those stories, but it's once a year. And I think MBAA and their schedulers and dispatchers conference every year is a really great place to go and learn about stuff. But not everybody starts a new job in the springtime of once a year. And you don't always, I just feel like there's more demand than what once a year can give us. I'm not saying that it's not, definitely go to it and it's worth going to, but I think we need additional resources. So I guess that's why I'm so excited about what we've created. And so let's start with what courses are best geared towards a new scheduling person?
Right. So the courses started off with really seeing a need from your experience and seeing so many different flight departments with your work with LD Aviation, with exposure to so many different departments and how each department is doing what, you were able to really uncover some maybe weak points or challenging points in making sure everything goes smooth. And one of those that we targeted was the executive admin, and sometimes having limited knowledge of aviation and kind of how things run smoothly. So our first course is the Executive Admin Business Aviation Training, geared towards that person who maybe doesn't have much aviation experience. They're not going to be super knee deep in things, but it's still really valuable for them to understand the flow of the trip, what certain hiccups mean. Why can't I leave out of this airport in the summer, but in the winter I can? And helping bring some of that basic knowledge of things they're going to hear to their attention. So the executive admin is really great for them.
That's awesome. You're right. Because how many times in our scheduling roles have we heard, hey, I'd like to go to the FBO that's called Teterboro. And you're like, yeah, that's not really the FBO. That's actually the airport. Or duty time. I mean, how many times have we had to try to explain what duty time is to an executive assistant that perhaps wants to do 5 flights in a day and doesn't understand why yet?
Yeah, this course will break that down from them on a real, starting from the bottom up and building that knowledge for them.
Which is great too, because I think then that strengthens the relationship between the flight department and the executive assistant and that whole team, which is a crucial relationship that exists there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I also see some EAs where they kind of hoard all of their changes and they'll the day before send them all over. I think that this course reminds them or helps them understand why that's not helpful to anybody. And that we really want to know all of those changes in advance. That way we can do some prep work on it.
Sure. Yeah. So the other course that I'm really excited about that you had mentioned earlier, there's not really out there in the market right now, is just an introduction to business aviation. So that one's geared more towards the scheduler and starting off with, now's your first day sitting at the scheduling desk. And here's how trips flow. And here are all the different considerations that you should take into account. So kind of that day one plugging into the phone, this is a course that maybe somebody could do at home before their first day of work, geared towards helping those who are interested in aviation and want to learn to be a scheduler, but don't really know too much about the industry.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, how many new people come in and it's almost like the scheduler that's there already perhaps is overwhelmed already, and trying to teach basics can be really difficult. So if you could pass them this course and say, listen, do some study on your own before you actually come in. I'll give you some more particulars on our specific flight department, but here are the basics. Make sure you know this.
Yeah, and I think it really fills a gap that we're seeing right now. MBAA has a great scheduler course. I took it myself. It's a really great course, but it does assume you have some knowledge already and maybe have been on the job for 6 or 8 months. So this one is much more geared to, this is day one on the job and kind of takes you from there and, maybe graduate to something that MBAA offers that's a little more advanced.
Yeah, really good point. And I think you also made a good point about maybe you don't know anything about this particular part of aviation and you might be interested in getting into it. This course will really tell you these are the things that you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. See if you like it.
And then again, too, if you have no aviation experience, we've got some courses like the phonetic alphabet or Zulu time, things that are really unique to our industry that we use on a daily basis. Aviation acronyms. We have a whole soup of acronyms that even in putting the course together, some of them were new to me or a refresher to me as well. So those we touched on 4 courses there, the executive admin course, an intro to business aviation, There's a phonetic alphabet, military time, Zulu time, how all those work. And then some aviation acronyms. So really great bunch of courses for those new to aviation.
I love them. And the aviation acronyms, you're right. There's so many that are just unique to aviation, especially just business aviation. So a lot of these courses were designed because, like you said, we've been in LD Aviation goes in and we have a lot of flight departments. And we found that we were going into flight departments and we ended up training the scheduler or EA that might be there already because they did not have a really good foundation of aviation in general. So we were like, gosh, why are we retraining this on a, one-to-one type of thing over and over? Let's create a course so that we can make this more streamlined, both for them and for us.
Exactly. Yep. And it's always great to continually try to improve your skills as the scheduler and at the scheduling desk. So we wanted to tap into a lot of the resources that we have at LD Aviation. And so we built the next tier from that and some courses geared more towards somebody who's experienced, but wants to learn a little bit more, like weather. Weather's one we have. We also have a business aviation scheduler course. So that's really looking at a deeper dive into suitable airports, selecting an FBO, those issues that we can maybe share more of those complex stories and dig a little deeper into the weeds on day-to-day scheduling.
So those courses were meant for maybe you go through the first courses and you learn the basics, and then you switch over and you start learning additional things, weather, specific aviation scheduler types of things. So maybe some international pieces, specific airport selection, those types of things. That makes sense.
Yep. Just some great tips on helping you become an even better resources for the operations department. And then everyone's favorite, I feel like everywhere we go, we have questions or we hear people who want more on aviation tax. So we partnered with MySky and their aviation tax expert, Ryan Demore, who's awesome. You've seen him be at NBAA. He has really a wealth of knowledge on aviation tax. So we partnered with him and did a whole civil course. He went through calculations, how we can track it, also how we can use MySky to help track legs and the tax implications for passengers. So if you have any questions about aviation tax, that's a fantastic course that I'd recommend people to take.
That's great. I know. I love Ryan, and he is so knowledgeable, like you said, all about taxes. And I think adding that to your knowledge base, your education, just makes you more valuable to your flight department. You could help your legal and probably your AP department learn how to code and make sure everything is being documented correctly. That course is awesome.
I was really struck by the tax impact for passengers who are able to use the aircraft for personal use, and not having it documented correctly can really make an impact on passengers' bottom line and really their paychecks. So I did not, until helping with the course, understand that fully until Ryan taught me. So yeah, it's extremely important.
In fact, Danielle, it's so funny that you say that because we've come in and done some consulting for, 3 or 4 companies that exact situation has happened. It hasn't been coded correctly. And if the CEO's W-2 shows up incorrectly, somebody's going to get in trouble. So having that done correctly in the beginning is really crucial in your flight department.
It really is.
And it happens. Yeah. It happens quite commonly, actually. So adding these things to your repertoire and your education are really invaluable.
Yeah, I agree. The other areas, we see a lot of people asking about civil. I feel like the next area where we're always looking for more information and getting the best tips is fuel sourcing, right? After probably payroll, fuel is a huge expense for a flight department. So in the fuel sourcing course, we looked at tips and tricks and where to go to help negotiate the best prices on fuel. And to your point you just made, the more as a scheduler you can help contribute to that and contribute to cost savings, the more valuable you are as a team member in the flight department, And the more the flight department's going to shine in the company and helping the company save money. So I really like that course as well.
And I think it's really fuel sourcing in general is a lot of people maybe think that they know all about it, but really there's some great tips in that course that talks to you about different contract fuels and perhaps CAA and Fly Louis, depending on which type of aircraft or rules that you're operating under. Anyway, that course, I think, can go and be helpful to even the most senior schedulers that are out there, because fuel is really just something that most people don't know a ton about.
Mm-hmm. And there's so much out there. I enjoyed digging into where does the fuel come from? Who are the different hands that touch the fuel? The business of it is obviously a huge business, but then focusing in on the aviation and understanding where it comes from and who touches it, that is helpful as well in understanding where to get the best price, right? Because every hand who touches it is going to have their markup on it, making your end cost even more.
Yep. Totally true. That's an awesome course.
And the last one we have is a supplemental lift. And that one is helping a scheduler understand what is the best practice for getting a charter, because inevitably something may come up. Your plane's down for annuals. Maybe your plane's engines need overhauled and now your plane doesn't, there's so many different things that could happen that you might need a charter. And, where do you even begin? Where do you even start to look? So this takes us kind of through steps of different considerations for getting a charter, and also the importance of doing that before you actually even need it. You need to call and get relationships with charter companies, not the day your plane is broken beforehand.
Yep, know about that in advance. That's great. And you partnered with an industry expert for that class, and it's wonderful. I agree. Everybody's going to need charter at some point. You better know how to use it and select it correctly before you need it.
Mm-hmm. Again, or else the cost is going to be astronomical for you. So the better you can understand those costs and the insurance requirements and everything like that, just making sure you're covered on all your bases while you put your executive on a plane that's not theirs.
So great.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So I'm so excited because, like I started off the conversation about, this has been a passion project of mine for many, many years. I love this industry, and I just really want to make it so that more people have access to all this great information that's out here, or these partners that we've been partnering with, like the tax one and supplemental lift and weather. We have another person that we partnered with, Enrique, that did the weather course with us. So I think this is so exciting that it's coming to fruition, and we have more coming down the line. We're just going to keep on creating them because I think that there's a ton more topics that we could talk about. But Danielle has done a spectacular job of creating all of these courses. And they're cool too because they have like little tests inside them, little videos. And so they're interactive. They're nice and interactive. They're not boring.
Mm-hmm.
We love
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you, Danielle.
It was fun putting them together and digging into really the meat of this and what is the best things and best tips that we can share from all of our years of experience. It was really great putting this together, and the feedback so far has been great. Everybody's been noting how we kind of step with logical progression through these and building the knowledge in each course. I think they're really great. And I think anybody who's, like I said, new or even experienced, you're going to learn something in these.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. Okay, so Danielle, if somebody who's listening might want to go look at the courses, research them, where do we find them?
Mm-hmm. So they're on the LD Aviation website, and they are under training.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And then if anybody wants to suggest a course that they would really like to hear about, let us know. We'll pop our contact information down here on the details section of this podcast. So great. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for spending some time today and telling us all about that. And this is a really cool section of the industry, I think, which is the training section.
Great. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes and check out our website for up-and-coming podcasts. This has been a production of the Business Aviation Collective, sponsored by LD Aviation.